Hey everybody, welcome back to Tech Odyssey. So as you can see, I'm reviewing a monitor. Now this is the BenQ XL2731. It's a gaming monitor. Now it's a little bit different than your typical LCD IPS panel. This one doesn't have quite the vibrancy on the colors, but what it does make up for that, it has a 144 Hertz refresh rate, and it also has a 1 millisecond response time. This is a gaming monitor. It's designed and geared around esports so that you can get the maximum edge when it comes to color, vibrancy, refresh rate, smoothness, and responsiveness whenever you're playing your games, which is what you want. And of course, you can change the color vibrancy up and down out the wazoo so you can get that perfect level of blacks. So you can see stuff from the distance, you can see stuff up close, and then everything else just kind of flows together whenever you have the wonderful 144 Hertz refresh rate. It's so smooth. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at the BenQ XL2731 esports gaming monitor. One of the first things that you're going to notice whenever you take a look at the monitor is that it has really small bezels around the edge of the screen. This is nice because you have full wide access to the screen itself and all of its 27 inches of glory. You don't have to worry about being a bunch of bulky stuff on the side of the screen distracting you in your view. Now you've got the buttons that are readily apparent on the front, all 6 of them, including the power button, and then it also has the logos on the back. You've got the BenQ, you got the Zowie logo, and overall it's got a really nice thin presentation. It's not overly bulky. It's got this telescopic sliding monitor stand where it goes up and down. It also rotates from side to side, and then the monitor pivots up and down as well. So you have full functionality for your comfort and view. You've got the HDMI ports, the DVI on the back, so you can plug in pretty much whatever you need to. There's a quick look at the ports that you got right there. Stabilize my phone. Now you can see you can plug all your stuff in, so easy peasy there. And then here, taking a closer look at the capabilities, it swivels. So you can turn it to the left or to the right. It's got a very, very wide angle turn on it. So it's not just a little bit, it's a lot of it. You can rotate it around. And then on top of that, the monitor itself pivots up and down. Now once it's flat and comes level, it won't go down any farther than that, but you can rotate it up pretty far. And then in addition to that, you can turn the viewing pane vertically. So here's another example here. You can move it up and down height-wise, and then if you want to rotate it vertically, you just angle it out a little bit so you can get past the stand, and then voila, you have a vertical monitor, which is really nice for like document editing and stuff like that. It's really ideal if you use your computer for more than just e-gaming or playing video games competitively or not competitively. You can use it for work as well. So once you have in that configuration, it tilts up just like it does whenever it's horizontal, and then it rotates from side to side just as far. So you have a ton of flexibility when it comes to this monitor and the viewing angles and the ability to position it in the way that you want it for optimization. All right, so what makes this monitor so special, and why is a gaming monitor better than a regular monitor? And this is something that's important for people who play video games, especially in the esports arena, because every second or every millisecond counts. And milliseconds is the world we live in when we're talking about esports and competitive video gaming. So this has a 144 Hertz refresh rate. So what that means, 144 frames per second is the max that this can do, but it also has a 1 millisecond response time. These are the two things that are super important when it comes to translating your skill to what's happening online on the battlefield, on the racetrack, wherever it is you're playing your game, what you're playing, whether it's Call of Duty, whether it's Forza, all that good stuff. So what we're talking about, so millisecond response time, what does that mean? So typically what's considered good is 5 milliseconds or less. For the longest time I had a 2 second, 4 millisecond response time monitor. This one is a 1 millisecond response time. What that means is how quickly the pixels can change, basically from white to black or black to white. It's the ability of the pixels to change colors, and that impacts your game because when you're playing, you need things to change as quickly as possible. So typically, under 4 milliseconds, the eye can't really tell all that much, but when you get down to like the competitive e-gaming and all that good stuff, you really want the absolute fastest you can get. You're talking about 1 millisecond or half millisecond response time, but this one with you're talking 1 millisecond for the pixel to change from one color to another. So that means that you have a smooth transition. You can't really tell that it's even changing because it's happening so fast. And a long time ago, I had a 16 millisecond response time, and I used to try and play Warcraft 3, and you would have the blur, you would have the pixelation. That's the stuff that happens because the game is operating faster than the screen can re-transition the colors for the images. So when you have things that are happening really fast, a lot of stuff going all at once, you need the lowest millisecond response time possible so you can get the ultimate edge and the smoothest experience for your gaming. Now, when it comes to the refresh rate, we're talking about the ability for the monitor to show how many frames per second. So typically, we're looking at 60 frames per second for most monitors, or whenever it comes to games, the max really that you're going to get consistently on a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One is 60 frames per second, but you can get up to 144 frames per second on this monitor, which it's geared towards if your computer can support it. Now what that means is how many times it can refresh the image in 1 second, making it super smooth. So the important thing when it comes to refresh rate is the smoothness. Whenever you're moving around, when you've got backgrounds, when you've got different things that are panning, a lot of things happening and moving at once across the screen, it's really important because if you have 60 frames per second, it's going to look like it's more blurry, it's going to go by faster, and it's going to be harder for you to keep track of things, your eyes to track the movement, shooting things, you kind of get the gist of it. The higher the refresh rate, the more that can be displayed at once, making it look smoother. You can give you a more accurate representation of what's going on, and you can be more engaged because your eyes are giving your brain a higher level of situational awareness than somebody on a lower frames per second monitor. And that's what the BenQ XL2731 brings to the table. You get that 1 millisecond response time and 144 hertz refresh rate. All right, time for some gameplay footage. So this right here is at 1080p at 60 frames per second. Now I'm going to show you 144 frames per second, 144 hertz as well, but there's one little caveat that I need to mention here. So this video itself is recorded in 1080p at 60 frames per second that you're watching right now, so it's not going to be able to display the full 144 hertz that you would be able to see in real life. The differences are not going to be as noticeable. But right here, what we have in the top left is the 60 hertz, and the bottom right is the 144 hertz. Now, I can tell a difference. The best things to look at are certain types of movement. You look at the gun; it seems to be a little bit more smoother. Some of the running motions, less blur whenever it comes to textures and things like that as you're moving around. But overall, I think that you can tell a little bit of a difference here, but ultimately there is a very noticeable difference whenever you're sitting in front of a 144 hertz monitor. Of course, there are not any phones out there that can display anything at 144 hertz, so I can't record at that. Now, I just want to go ahead and say that. But overall, I do think that there's a difference. Here is the full screen 144 hertz gameplay, and it looks nice. I mean, it is smooth. Of course, it's 144 hertz running at 60 hertz, so it's not going to translate, like I said. But overall, I think that if you have an experience with higher frame rate monitors that display at a higher hertz, then you can appreciate this as something that you're probably looking for in a monitor, and especially at the $299 price category. I feel like this one is very competitive, and I've been very happy with the performance of the monitor overall. All right, so there are a lot of bells and whistles that come along with this monitor. Of course, all the glorious 1 millisecond response time with the 144 hertz refresh rate. You also get some really good profile customization. So you can go in here, you can adjust the color vibrancy, the blacks, the brightness, the contrast. There's so much stuff in here. And then you have the individual picture mode profile. So you've got FPS 1, FPS 2, RTS, Gamer 1, 2, and 3, Movie, and then Standard. So you can change all of these quickly with just a quick press of the button on the front of the monitor like you see there. I've already changed between 3 different profiles. Now these profiles are set up in a specific manner already, but then you can go through and you can change the brightness, the blacks, the color vibrancy, so you can optimize it for how you want it for different games. And that's something that's really important when it comes to a gaming monitor, because sometimes you want higher contrast, sometimes you want lower brightness, sometimes you want a different color scheme, sometimes you want more blacks to be present on the picture on the screen. So what this does is it gives you the ability to change that on the fly. So if you want to play Doom 4, and then you want to play Fallout 4, and then you want to go play League of Legends, and then you want to play Overwatch, you can have all that stuff set up, and then you can go in here even more: picture mode, brightness, contrast, sharpness, gamma, color temperatures. There's so much stuff that you can go in here and you can change it manually for each one of the profiles, so that way you're ready to go whenever you need it. And that's something, like I said, that is really cool in the event that you play multiple games and you want to fine tune your profile. Because if you don't have this stuff, you're stuck with one overall profile when it comes to how your monitor displays games. So that means every time you go in and you change something, or every time you go play another game, it might not be optimized for you in the best way possible. And I think that this brings a lot to the table, not just with the ability to produce such a good quality image so quickly, but also because you can go in here and you can change stuff on the fly. And it's also nice too if more than one person uses the computer, because if you're sharing a computer, if your kids play, you got a roommate, you got somebody else that uses the same computer, you don't have to worry about them coming in and messing with your settings. They can have their own individual profile on there as well. However, you want to let them set it up. So I think there's a lot to be said for that as well. And it goes a long way in making a solid argument for looking into a monitor like this for your individual playing style. All right, so one other adjustable feature on here is actually the orientation of the monitor. So what you can do is we can flip this upright like I showed you earlier in the video, and you can put it in portrait mode versus landscape mode. And this gives you the ability to have a full vertical display. And this is really important, especially if you use your computer for multiple things. So like me, I use my desktop for gaming, but I also use it for writing my reviews. I use it for editing. I use it for document drafting. So it's really nice to be able to flip this up vertically so you can have a long view. So if you're working on a PDF, if you're working on a Word document, it's kind of annoying dealing with it in portrait mode because you're only getting a sample size of the image that you're working on. So being able to see a full-length document or PDF or whatever it is that you're working on is super cool and is convenient, especially, this used to be a really expensive feature. There weren't a whole lot of monitors that had this available, and you couldn't just buy any monitor off the street. But now you're talking about a 27-inch esports gaming monitor with a 1 millisecond response time, 144 hertz resolution, but you can also use it for business, professional, school-related stuff. You can flip it up and use it for document editing and all that other good stuff. So I really, really like that feature, and I think that that's something that really helps seal the deal on this one for me. All right, so that's all I've got on my review for the BenQ XL2731 esports gaming monitor. Now it's 1080p full HD resolution. It's not 4K. I actually prefer playing in 1080p because you can get a 1080p rig that'll play 144 hertz at under $1,000. Whereas if you want to move up into the 4K world, you're talking a much more expensive video card, more expensive processor, more expensive everything. So I like to keep things, I'm sitting this close to the monitor already. 1080p, perfectly fine for me. And you're going to have people that advocate for both sides, but from a cost perspective, 1080p is where it's at. So it's a solid monitor, $299. It's got the BenQ name that goes along with it, so you're getting a solid product. And of course, this was sent out to me as a review unit. I was not paid for this. It's not sponsored. They're not getting to see this before I put it out there. Purely sent out to me so I could do a review on it. And I happen to like it. I think that it's a solid monitor, and if you're looking for something to get into, esports, or looking just to have the best competitive edge in your own gaming at home, this is a solid option, especially for the price and what you get. So that's all I've got for this review. If you got any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section. I'll get back with you. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like and the subscribe button, the little notification bell so you get the latest and greatest. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.